So if you're sending cold emails today and you're buying garbage data from Apollo or any other vendors, you aren't validating, or you're just trusting Clay to do its thing in Waterfall, your campaigns are dead before they even start. And we know this because we're currently sending over 12.5 million cold emails every single month on behalf of all of our clients. And while everyone else is struggling with data quality and getting maybe 30% valid emails, we built a system that lets us generate millions of verified leads every single month, tens of millions of leads and emails and validations, allowing us to reach our clients' total addressable market. In this video, I'm going to break down our entire lead generation process, from how we scrape data at scale to how we validate and how we enrich every single lead before it ever gets loaded into a campaign. Plus, I'm going to go over some really advanced stuff we do with AI to really take this to another level. This is cutting edge stuff that is really just hitting the market. So let's get into it. Here's the problem with how most people get leads. Here's what 99% of companies do wrong. They buy data from Apollo, ZoomInfo, or whatever vendor. They trust the emails that come from that vendor. They load it straight into their sequencer and start sending. And then they wonder why their bounce rate is 30% and their campaigns aren't working. The reality is every single data vendor, and I mean every single one, gives you about 70% garbage. It doesn't matter how premium the vendor is or how much you're paying. The emails are outdated, the contacts have changed jobs, or the data was never accurate to begin with. And this messes everything up. You're burning domains, sending to bad emails, you're tanking your sending reputation, you're bouncing like crazy, you're wasting money on infrastructure. That's just gonna get flagged as spam. And worst of all, you're missing out on actual revenue because your good emails aren't even making it to the inbox. Now, let me break down how we build high quality lead lists. But before I do that, if you want us to build your entire system for your company, map your TAM, set up your infrastructure, and start generating pipeline within a week from cold email, then click the first link in the description and book a free intro call with us. Now, here is how we build lead lists. So step one, starting with the raw data. Everything starts with an Apollo export or data from other vendors or other search portals that we work with. This can be very dependent on where you want to get the data from, right? So if we're going to reach out to SaaS, we have a private database that we've worked with. So for example, you could use SaaSyDB. They are really good and they've really enriched our SaaS targeting. But if you're trying to target local business, then having an excellent Google business scraper is going to be great for those types of capabilities. But the other thing that's really huge is to be able to have our own private database that we have built up over the years. I mean, we have a private database that has almost 50 million leads inside of it. And most of the time we don't even have to go buy new data. We only need to go fetch the new stuff, the new people that are in the marketplace. And the other thing is that we're pretty tight with the Lead Magic guys. We really like their data and their API is just cracked. They're the best on the market. And we also really like the Wizza guys. We found that those are the two top ones when trying to find like premium data sources, right? But even then, we do not trust any email that comes from any vendor, including them. So it doesn't matter who it is. And so this is where step two, you need to validate everything that you're doing. Most people will call this waterfall. This is fairly commonplace. All right, so here is one of our Clay tables. And this one's a really good example because this isn't just a normal Apollo export, right? Like if you do an Apollo export, great. If you do a ZoomInfo export, great. You can kind of start with anything, just whatever allows you to search. There's a lot of good vendors out there. There's Waterfall.io, there's Avito, there's a bunch of ones out there where you can start there. But no matter what, you're going to have like, cool, here are the leads that we need to talk through. What is the process that we need to go through? And so the very first thing that we do the normal stuff. You want to normalize the company name. You want to normalize the domain of the company. And this one is a Google scrape, for example. So we scraped Google for accountants all across the United States. And so what we do first is we then took that Google scrape, took it to Apollo and said, hey, can you give us all of the emails? What do you guys think with that? And so first, what we like to do is we like to run a validation through Lead Magic, and then they tell us if it's valid or not. And then we like to check our own back-end database. And this one's a really good example. All these error out just means that it wasn't able to find it, or we didn't already have that lead's email. But for this person, we did, right? We can see the data status is risky. That means that we have not personally validated it within the last 30 days. And so then we're going to run it through here. And so what we do is we run it through Lead Magic. We go, is it valid or not? And then if it's a catch-all, which it ended up being that, then we send it to Bounceban. And for Bounceban, you have to send it to them and then you have to do another request in order to get it back. And then if it's valid, it pops up inside of here. Then what we do is we take it to Wizza next, as you can see here. And we do the same thing. We verify, cool. If it's a non-catch-all, then we use lead magic to validate it. If it was a catch-all, then we would run it through bounce band. Lastly, what we do is we run it through lead magic and we go, cool. We didn't have the email. Apollo didn't have the email. Wizard didn't have the email. Lead magic, do you have the email? And then we run it through them and they say yes or no. And if it comes back, lead magic's also nice in their finder because they validate it when you do that. And so here we could see lead magic did not have an email for those leads, so it didn't continue through. And so then we have the true emails for everybody here. The next thing that we do, and this one's a pretty pro tip, is that you can get an account with Email Guard. And what we do is here you can see that we do a host name lookup. And so we go, cool, like what is the email service provider of this inbox? So this one's Google. Let's see if we can find an example for you. There's Outlook. What I want to show you is like a proof point or something like that, which these are like local accountants. So they probably aren't going to be that. And so the ones that you really want to look out for are things like Proofpoint, Mimecast, Brabus, things like that, because these ones are going to be really hard to inbox to, and they can actually really hurt your deliverability if you email to them. They're called ESGs, email security gateways or something like that. And so you don't want to email those people. Next, what we do is we upload the validated lead to our backend database. So that way in the future, we don't have to double pay for any leads. And then we upload them into campaigns. So the powerful part is with our own internal database. Before we spend money finding new emails, we check our own database, and we have private SaaS lists. We have private AI lists that we've developed, which is a really cool new vertical that's appearing of just AI companies. We have ad spenders. We have funded companies, to name just a few of the special proprietary lists that we have. And we've been building this database for years with tens of millions of validated contacts, and we revalidate these emails pretty much monthly to make sure that they're fresh and to make sure it's accurate. And if we find the email here and it's still valid, we use it. The thing is, our private database, we're actually thinking about giving this database to the public for free. Add your email to the waitlist in the description if you want to be the first to hear about it. What this looks like is it wouldn't be us selling data. I have no interest in selling data, but I might release something that would allow agencies to have their own database so they don't waste a ton of money rebuying data over and over again. For us personally, I used to spend an average about 15 grand a month just on data, and it's lowered my bill by over 10 grand a month by not having to just rebuy data that I already bought. It was already ours. The third check is Wizza. Wizza does real-time checks and cross-references with LinkedIn. It's slower than other tools, but it's incredibly accurate. And even then, we still validate every email that comes through with Wizza first. If it returns a catch-all, then we run it through Bounce Band. The fourth check is with Lead Magic. This is our most expensive check, which is why we do it last. We try to find the email through Lead Magic's enrichment, and the same process. If it's a catch-all, we validate through Bounce Band. Lastly, we do an ESP lookup. We look at the email service provider for every single lead. And is this person on Gmail, Outlook, a custom SMTP, enterprise infrastructure like Proofpoint? And this determines which campaign they will go into, which infrastructure sends to them, and sometimes even which sequencer we will use. The last thing is we propagate our own database. Every single lead and company gets loaded back into our database. This builds our assets over time. Our database gets stronger with every campaign we run. And the next time we need to reach that specific person or someone at their company, we already have validated data. The other really cool workflow that I'll show you, there's a lot of really cool things that you can be doing with AI. And so for example, here's one that I wanted to put together for you. And this is something where James on my team, he's taken a bunch of courses from Jordan Crawford. Jordan Crawford's the man. This is something that like he's put together. And so this is something where it'll scrape the entire internet to be able to find leads for these companies. And you'll notice we wanted to run it for every company where like we didn't get information from Apollo. There wasn't any sort of match from our initial extraction from Apollo. Then we said, cool, can we find it on the internet? And every single one of these green ones means that it was very confident that we found somebody. So for example, here, we found 3 different people that we could talk to. And we found their LinkedIn profiles. What is this? Reasons for, oh yeah, this is just justifying like, is this a good lead or not? And we have multiple people like that. And then all we need to do with this data is we take this LinkedIn profile URL and we go, cool, can you find me the email? And we go right through the waterfall process again. And so this really gives a massive uplift on our campaigns where it's like, okay, we weren't able to find somebody through typical means through here. Can we do an AI scraper? And here is what is insane about this method is that we found 3 leads for this company. And here's the crazy thing is that this entire thing costs a fifth of a penny to find 3 leads. Using AI to be able to do this kind of stuff is really, really cool. I'd show you kind of the secret sauce, but honestly, check out Jordan Crawford. He has some really cool ass shit on how to do this stuff properly. The next thing that I'll show you is some cursor stuff that we're developing. And this is super, super proprietary, super cutting edge. And we've been learning some really, really cool stuff. And so what we're able to do this is a couple screenshots that James sent me on my team. He's my right-hand dude. We've been best friends for like 10 years. I was in his wedding. He was in my wedding. He was in an inbound sales job, and then he was going to an outbound sales job. He hit me up because he knew that I figured out how to automate my entire sales job, which is how I even started sales automation systems. And as you can tell, I'm really good at naming companies. I just name it what it is. He was like, hey, dude, can you teach me how to automate my job like you did? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And so I taught him Clay. I taught him go to market, all of that kind of stuff. He was my first consulting client, funnily enough. He paid for all the training. So anyways, I've taught him like everything he knows. He's like one of the best dudes in the world. And it's why we're able to be, basically a 2-person company doing just over $2 million a year in annual revenue. And he's definitely worth $1 million, that's for sure. Anyways, what we're doing here is that you can see in his terminal, what he's doing is he's built it's just a surface level scraper right now. And what it's doing is it's just going state by state. He's only doing the first page of each one, but each page has over 100 results. And so we could basically do it all. The real trick is to actually do it by zip code so that you can actually get every single result for one of those. And this is just something he built in Cursor. He had to finagle with it for like 3-4 hours, but now he has like a super good just money printer for Google scrapes at scale just using Cursor. So Cursor is like a really big tool. I actually just bought licenses for my entire team, as small as they are. My personal executive assistant, I got her one because I'm like, I want you to be able to process CSVs that much better, right? It's like the best dollar you could possibly spend. And so those are the top things that we look at. It's not the most complicated thing in the world, nor does it have to be, but it wants to be systematic. And we've tested out, like we've tried every data provider in the entire world. And this is the ones where we found the most bang for our buck. If you run an AI, SaaS, or B2B service business, and you want to reach 100% of your total addressable market every 30 to 60 days with cold email, then click the first link in the description and book an intro call with us. We've helped SaaS companies like RB2B scale to $4 million in ARR, where 42% of their revenue came from our cold emails alone. We've helped AI companies like Fixer AI, where we built a machine that generated $4.3 million, like closed pipeline revenue for them. And if we would have hit their total addressable market, because it takes time to ramp up, we would have had a machine that was generating $32 million a year in annual recurring revenue for them with cold email. For B2B service agencies like Directive Consulting, we just helped them close $484,000 in annual recurring revenue just in Q3 of this year. And that's closed. That's $484,000 of annual recurring revenue closed in just 1 quarter of working with them. And we're still growing those now. And so book your free call with us in the description below. And if you want to see how I personalize millions of cold emails with AI in seconds, then watch this video next.